He did get a brief program with the WWE champion JBL at the end of September. They even have a match on September 30th. Of course, Holly gets a win by DQ, so the title doesn't change hands, and then he beats him by count out the next week. But around this same time is when there's an incident with Bob Holly and René Duprée and a rental car. Do you remember the story here?
Oh my God. Yeah. And I only got Bob's version on this. So bear with me there, but it was something about, Bob having a rental car and letting René asked to keep the rental car. Bob was going back. Bob says, yeah, just make sure that, you fill it up with gas and you return it before the time. And Bob was on the road and finds out that there's a warrant out for his arrest in the state of Washington, and that they have suspended his license for parking tickets and some other bullshit in Washington. And it was on this date that René had the car. So Bob, having a very short fuse, which Bob Holly does have, apparently confronted René about it. René denied it and said that he didn't have any tickets and he doesn't know what the hell Bob's talking about. And Bob kept confronting him and finally told him, I'm going to kick your ass. And Bob, I believe, kicked his ass in the ring one night. But he told him ahead of time. He said, either come clean or I'm going to kick your ass. And you better, I think the line was, you got 24 hours to learn how to fight, bitch.
That's it. That's what he wrote in his book. And he says that all the boys turn around and look at him, and René just sits there looking like a deer in the headlights. And 24 hours later, he still hadn't apologized.
Yeah, it was on the plane.
24 hours later, he still hadn't apologized. And they're in Rochester, New York, where we'll be. What day? July what?
Well, what day was it? I don't fucking know. July 4th? I don't know.
July 7th. Jesus. Fuck. I'm trying to keep
God damn it. What cloud am I on right now?
I was just bragging about you earlier. Like, man, we've been working together so long. You just know where I'm going. You're like, I don't know. Is it Thursday? What's going on? Are you talking to me? Is it AM? Is it PM? I better take my pills. Doot. So anyway, he's in Rochester, New York, and he has a match. It's him and Charlie against René and Kenzo. And he starts hitting René, really laying it in and saying, hey, hit me back. We're fixing to go. And he runs away, even goes to the backstage. So he goes after him. He catches him, drops him, and just beats the living shit out of him. Big Show stops him, grabs him, pulls him off. And Dave Finley, who's an agent, comes over and says, what the fuck, Bob? And Bob says, no, what the fuck, Dave? You don't know? He tells him about the ticket situation. And Finley says, okay, he deserved to have his ass kicked. And he says, quote, I fucked René up enough. They had to take him to the hospital for a bunch of scans. And I got a call from Johnny Laurinaitis that night at the hotel asking what happened. After I told him, he said, you can't be doing that. And then started laughing. He carried on with, but who am I to tell you that when I used to do that same sort of thing myself? He told me later that Vince wasn't mad at me, but he just didn't want this thing going on anymore. By TV on Monday, Vince's mood had changed or been changed. Tell me what you remember about when he finally has to sit down with Vince.
Well, here's the thing. You can't have a workplace where people are going around beating other people up. Now, if people were walking around First Family Mortgage, and beating people up because they got mad, then that wouldn't be a safe work environment. And it just wasn't good. Regardless of who's right and who's wrong, it wasn't cool. And that's what Vince was pissed about.
Can I tell you what he wrote in his book that will tickle you?
Sure.
Johnny came to me and says, Vince wants to see you in a bit and he's pissed. Somebody got in his ear and said that what you did to René was bullshit. And I said, let me guess. That wouldn't be Hunter, would it? Do you think that Hunter sort of got in Vince's ear?
I wouldn't be surprised.
So when they finally sit down, Vince starts in on him And Bob throws his hand up and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. Don't sit here and yell at me when you don't know the story, because I'll just get up right now and walk the fuck out. And he says Vince was taken aback that he couldn't believe somebody was talking to him like that. And he looked at Johnny and then at me and says, okay, tell me what happened. So he went from yelling to being as calm as he could, just like that. And Bob says it was the only time Vince ever yelled at me. And he explained what happened. I started talking about the type of person that René was. I told Vince how he acted towards people in public, how he would talk down to waiters in restaurants if the food wasn't fixed right. I told Vince that this wasn't the sort of person who represented the company well, and he got his ass kicked because he deserved it. And Vince said, and these are the words out of his mouth, I don't know René. All I know is the guy kisses my ass every time I walk by. And he went on to say that the majority of the people who worked for him only ever told him how good his hair looked or how nice his tie was, and he couldn't stand the ass kissing. I couldn't believe he was telling me all this. He said he understood why I did what I did to René, but he couldn't have that going on at his shows, so he's got to find me $10,000. I said he could find me as much as he wanted because I believed what I did was the right thing to do, and René had refused to own up to what he'd done. He'd cost me my driver's license. He'd caused me to be thrown in jail, or could have been thrown in jail, and nothing Vince said or did would change my mind. So Vince stood up and shook my hand and said, just don't be doing that anymore in my ring. If you're going to do it somewhere else. And I said, no problem. Can I do it in the locker room? He knew I was joking, and we left it there. Later, Johnny came to me and said, when you told Vince to be quiet, I thought you were done. After the meeting, apparently Vince turned to Johnny and said, I have a lot of respect for that guy. This is a story unlike anything we've ever heard before. Were you there? Did you hear this? What'd you hear about it?
Oh, I thought Vince's arms looked great. I put oil on them later. No, I wasn't there in the meeting. No, it was just them. I remember hearing the story though. And, Vince was pissed off at the incident. And again, it took place in front of a crowd, and that's what he was pissed off about. Shit happens, and guys deal with it. And that again goes back to the old school. That's how guys dealt with shit, back in the day. And Bob's an old school kind of guy.
I guess we should talk about,